I'm just waiting in silence. Just waiting in silence because I just want to see if anybody is around that would like to come into the live chat so that I'm not sitting here talking entirely to myself. So it's an impromptu live. I was going to go live several days ago and just couldn't get the time, or I guess really the inclination, to sit down and have a chat, and then things just keep happening, don't they? And you know, it's absolute mayhem and madness. Okay, someone is here, so I'm not talking to myself at least. Oh, and they have very kindly given it a thumb up, so could be friendly person. Oh, it's Esbrook. Hello. How are you? Yeah, this whole, I just can't get over it's chaos and cacophony and the mayhem and madness. It is, isn't it, JK? All I can give is, be someone who will sit online live and give an opinion. It's only an opinion. It's not necessarily an educated opinion or how it talks. Or anything that's going to be hitting any nails on the head. But also I'm very willing all the time to change my mind, and I think a lot of people have probably changed their minds many times when they've been studying and watching what's going on in the Delphi murders. There's an interesting thing happening, Esbrook. Oh my gosh, yes, you do live in Maine, that's right. I wonder, do you know if the death toll has changed? Because I know there are so many injured people, and of course some of those injuries could be fatal wounds. From what I saw, there were 18 people dead and 13 injured or something like that, although the injured list was a lot higher when I first saw the news breaking about that. And this is a person that has, clearly been living with poor mental health, and he's been experiencing all sorts of things, including auditory hallucinations. It is not true that people that experience auditory hallucinations are just, by that definition, a danger to others, but you see that written a lot in all the comment sections, right? Oh, he was having auditory I can barely speak today, okay, I'm so sorry. Oh, he's having auditory hallucinations. He was clearly a danger. No, not that in itself. Sadly, everything that happens like this stigmatizes mental health. I think we've got a bigger issue here, haven't we? We've got an issue. Hi, Kat. Awesome. Nice to see you. Just having a Esbrook is, yeah, she's in Maine, and I was just saying, this is a person that I think there's so much, now we're going to throw money after things and we'll send in grief counsellors and all of this palaver. Well, what about looking after vets? What about looking after people that come out of the service and are seriously screwed? They may have been when they go in, and then something about their situation, the training, what they experience. I mean, I think this person was in the reserves. I'm not sure if he ever served overseas or anything like that. but still, he was, he's a veteran. He's served time in the military. He was training people how to use guns. And, you have to think, what does this do to people and their estimation of human life? Because we know all about killology, don't we? And, the psychological processes people go through to make it possible that they can go into another country, go to war, and they can go and shoot indiscriminately at times. But, the issue here is, this person who is receiving some medical care, what sort of follow-up, what's happening? What are people doing about where he's going to go, how he's going to be living, how safe he is and how safe other people are from this person? He's gotten hold of not just a revolver, not a pistol. He hasn't taken a rifle out of the gun cabinet that is used to shoot opossums or whatever people might do. He has got an assault rifle with all the bells and whistles. I think it's the same assault rifle used in so many shootings. Texas, Uvalde. That little cocksucker spent, what was it? Probably nearly $10,000 getting his hand on equipment, right? How could he spend that? And don't you think that would be red flag for people selling these weapons? Gun shops they are multi-millionaire. They make money. In Australia, those shops, they are turning over tens of millions of dollars. We do have guns in Australia, okay, but we don't have carry and conceal laws and things like that, right? He reached out, right? So S. Brooks says, yeah, he reached out. There's little help here. Yeah, I see that. I see it as a failure of how people are treated when they have been, when they're serving and after service. And look at all the homeless people. I mean, we know, okay, we've seen scores of tragedies, okay, of ex-military people that have come back. They're trying to reestablish their lives. Even in the Delphi murders case, we've got the absolute annihilation of a person who he wasn't the one that was going crazy. He was trying to save his own sanity. And Jesse Snyder was treated extremely heinously by law enforcement, and now he's dead. But, so how are these people, okay, so sometimes I do talk a little bit emotionally. I make these, bold statements about what are you doing, America, with your gun laws and everything, because how many times we want to go, it's every 3 days. Our thoughts and prayers are with the people of Texas. Our thoughts and prayers are with the people of Florida. Our thoughts and prayers are with the people, insert city here. And it's, how can you keep responding to that over and over again? Isn't it insanity? Doesn't Einstein, whatever you think of him, didn't he say, or maybe he's misquoted, but didn't he say, just repeating the same thing over and over again, that doesn't work. It's the definition of insanity. And here we have people being able to get hold of assault rifles. This isn't a pistol that someone can go and get taken down easily by, they're using it. There was one incident, right, and I think Randy Gravett talked about this or something, where in Indiana, in a mall, someone drew a pistol or a revolver or something. They were brandishing or threatening, and so, someone with a conceal and carry drew his weapon and he fired. And he took the guy out, or he shot the gun away, or he did something, right? Someone did something. That is rare. Okay, you think about all the gun violence incidences, even if we just take that down to school shootings and mass shootings, how often, yes, people, I agree though, Kat, people do kill people, but they're using guns to slaughter children en masse, women en masse, men en masse, innocent people who have nothing to do with that person's frame of mind, their situation. And it is a deep concern, so maybe this person, before he was quite sick, maybe, or known to be mentally struggling, maybe he already had some weapons stashed away. That's possible, because that's definitely possible. Maybe he has friends from the military who have these weapons that he's got, and these weapons that we don't know. Anyway, it's not what we're here to talk about, but I do agree, Kat, guns don't kill, but people do use guns to kill, and psychopaths and just unhinged people and people out for revenge and suicidal people and all sorts of people are using these guns. And when we think about what type of weapons they're using, they're not going out just carrying a revolver, right? Or even a rifle. They're taking some very serious weaponry, and that can fire, that they can load magazines so quickly, and that they can shoot out so much firepower within such a short amount of time. They really do some damage. They want to be terrifying. They want to seem unstoppable. And maybe this is off-putting to people that are carrying. And when a person like this Robert Card is going into a place that doesn't allow concealed weapons, I guess there's no one around that's going to draw and shoot. S. Brooks says, no gun laws in Maine, total chaos, gun sales have soared today, ironically. Anywho, so the Delphi murders, the double homicide of Abby and Libby in 2017, we know, the investigation has been under par from the start, it feels like. Although we have to know that we do not have all the evidence, even though it could be said that, yes, the best evidence is put into, okay, Kat, see you soon. Even though the best evidence, you hope that the good morsels are in the PCA. A lot of discovery comes after. We do not have the discovery that the defense and the prosecution do have now. And for years, what we've had, and this is all just my opinion, as I said, I'm not qualified to sort of give any educated opinion on anything there. I don't live in the state. I don't go and interview people. I just watch from, I watch through a device. But I've done a lot of watching, and I think I see a lot of what goes on from a lot of different angles. And I see a lot of the slyness that people have. And I see a lot of the sleaziness and tricksiness that people have, right? But the whole thing, it is so layered. It's packed with red herrings. It's packed with white noise. There's so much white noise. And I think how you feel about Judge Gull, how you feel toward the family, and even the observations that some people make about them when they've seen them in court recently, I think, how they feel is, it just depends on their bias. It really depends on their bias. One way you can look at what Judge Gull was trying to do is she can see how out of control it is, She sees that it is entirely unacceptable for these leaks. These are drips too. Drip, drop, drip, drop. To me, that's sinister. It is creepy. It indicates something deeper and darker and nastier and twistier than I would, than the way I would feel about it if it was a leak, a leak, a gush, a leak of boom. There's that info. That seems more like the action of a crusader, a righteous person, a person who really is on the side of creating clarity and creating a playing field that is even and level for justice. This drip, 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 and how it's all happened and who it's gone to, that to me is indicative of something sly and something sinister all of its own, okay? And that's my opinion. And you could think, okay, is Judge Gull, she really just sees that, in Australia, that this is completely unacceptable. And the demands of the public to know everything before a trial, no. You actually, people feel that they've got that right. The entitlement or you're just crazed and hysterical to me, the way that you squeal and whine for it, some people, and how you think that justice can be served, and how you think that you are doing anything other than just being a whiny meddler. You're actually creating chaos, havoc, danger for defendants, danger for people, for everybody. You're not helping the victims. You're just self-serving, and that's how I see it. So Gull could be seen as, hey, I am just trying to cool these jets here because this is not acceptable. It's not righteous. Ellen can't get a decent... Hi, Perry. What do you think seems underhanded, Perry? He can't get a decent hearing like this. The social media is a rabid dog, right? And, a zoo full of rabid raccoons and a few rabid dogs. But Gull could genuinely... I'm so distracted by my bizarre appearance. Oh, you don't care. Does she think he's better off? Why? It's the bias. You look at the people who have a particular angle on things, and they are not going to see it that perhaps Gull just really sees things for what it is, a shit show, unacceptable, dangerous, and she wants to start again, giving Ellen, giving justice, giving the girls a better chance. And that's very, very possible. And, why is Rossi trying to hang on? Maybe it's not good for, Rosie, ROSSI. He's now petitioned the Supreme Court. This is what I understand. This is what I've seen, Tom Webster posted, I put it on my comment section, my community. He's petitioned the Supreme Court to have Gull removed. Why? Because when a new defense comes in, they wouldn't also take the Odinist route? Why would he one to hang on in there without Baldwin, it's, that's, I don't know, is it a good or bad thing? You think the leaks are really underhanded? Yeah, I do too, Perry. They clearly are. They clearly are. And Esbrook, we've kind of got a situation here with Delphi where it's not the same. It's not equivalent to, I believe in due process and due diligence, and so therefore you're a Barry lover, say. It's more like the people that are gunning, they're not just, most people, they don't seem to be just saying, look, Rick Allen needs a fair trial. They don't leave it there. So people that have been called Ricky lovers, there's other dark layers to it, actually. And they are also coming up with other solutions to what happened and who's responsible and everything like that. And, they're not revealing themselves only to be people that really just believe in basic human rights and let's just all, try and follow the word of the law. This protects everybody. But they actually reveal themselves to just have agendas. They're sometimes screaming about basic human rights because they're actually, making videos about Kelsey being a liar and all of this sort of thing, right? All of this, and that, it's ex-mayor Shane Carter. Is that his name now? Now I can't even remember. Come on, someone knows. SE, so Evans, and that it's him on the bridge, right? So there's more to it than that. They're not just people that are all for due process and they're watching unfold and they're respecting things. They're actually, ghouls. Yeah. So some people I know felt the same way as I did at first, which was that the Odinist angle made Rick Allen look more guilty initially, right? And I know a lot of people thought that, along with me. That's when I heard about that, when I read about it, read the document, my conclusion was, well, this makes Allen look actually more guilty, right? I wonder if people are changing their minds now because they're being swayed by how people are talking about these courtroom things, right? Because everybody is ready, High Blind Squirrel, everybody is ready for everything to proceed, right? But it wasn't actually, it had been so damaged and so there's so much muck thrown on it now, Johnny, that it's actually not good timing. Even though Rick Allen has to stay longer in incarceration, being, on remand, in limbo, I think he is better to not have his case proceeding now with the way things are. And things do need to settle right down. There's a lot of people that believe in due process and due diligence, Perry, and sometimes when they speak up, they just get a whole lot of shit. Not so much in this case because not so much in this case. Yeah, so it's been very tainted, Johnny. What do I have here? I tried to make some notes so I could keep kind of on track. So It's interesting too, right? So it's not before the confession that, or the, we don't know, again, we don't have transcripts. It's not before the confession that Alan was tased, for example. He was tased in May. Now they say, okay, because it was just, we've tried not to be rough with him, but we had to. Maybe he was refusing to come out of his cell. Maybe he was refusing to go into his cell. We don't know, okay? It sounds bad, but I can tell you now, he's not the only person on remand that's tased either. I mean, that's just the sad truth. But going back to Judge Gull and in the courthouse, okay, so much is made about all these people being there, all these people, Carter, and, just a full frontal of law enforcement. And, I know definitely the Patty German family. I don't know if Anna Williams was there. She possibly was. Or someone from Abby's family probably was there. And then we've got the lonely Kathy Allen and Rick Allen's mother, who don't really, they seem to be quite isolated figures there. Kathy Allen is crying in court, and she's let out and probably told that, this is what's happening. So nothing's going ahead today. And then these, the Ricky lovers, you could say, who are different to so-called Barry lovers, who, by the way, aren't Barry lovers. They are due diligence, due process people. But these Ricky lovers who seem to be, that there's so many more layers to them because they're very hateful, their bias in their mind, so they see, and how they process what they're seeing is hateful. So they see Doug Carter and Mike Patty, they're embracing, and they don't like how Liberty German's family are acting in the court, because they think they're happy and they're gleeful, and they think it's so sinister, right? And they don't try to be measured about it and say, okay, well, what's been going on here? What could they be relieved about? Maybe relieved that the shit show is being shut down. This Odin angle is being shut down because they're looking for justice for their little girls, and they know that an Odin sacrifice is bullshit, and they don't want that to proceed, and they're fucked off about the leaks. The defense, now this is reprehensible, and in Australia and other countries, and probably throughout Europe and New Zealand, it is reprehensible that leaks would happen, and that in a document that they know is going to be released. This is the Franks motion. They know it's not sealed. It's going to be out there, to put descriptions of the crime scene, the girl's body, things like that. That the fact that they just don't just get and have due process and trial, it is an abomination to a lot of people. But the hysterics, the people that are the ghouls in this case, that are so, they are like at the teat. Romulus, suckling at the wolf. They just can't get enough, right? And they'll suck until they're drinking blood. That's what they're doing. And they just can't stand it. They can't stand if this veil comes down, if the justice doors just shut in their little faces, because they need their drug. They need their drug. They need the hit. Mainline it. Yep. Just get that shit in there, right? Oh, because, they're going into withdrawals, and they're getting really nasty, and they're going to be throwing out all these other narratives. And, so people who she's sly, she's tricky. I mean, look, she's pretty, she's bright. She has a good career. She's a local. She, talks interestingly about the history of flora and things. She grew up. She knows a lot of the players. Julie Melvin, so she sucks a lot of people in, right? Because she knows she's very sly, okay? She's sly and slick. She's a snake. And, so her, she's saying that, how sickening it is that Carter is, she thinks that Gull is, corrupt and playing games and everything like that, right? And sorry. So yeah, and she's very slick, because she will tell some people, we know that she's talking about the cabin now. She is going to talk about the cabin. She's told creators, the Machiavellian cult leaders that she enjoys speaking with. She's told them that she does believe in the cabin. So I'll say to her on criminality, we'll wait for a mod to get here, guys. Just ignore anything that's odd. So Kit will be back soon. I said to her in the criminality chat, oh, Julie, so why don't you then tell Teresa about the cabin, She goes, oh, no, yeah, because I'm going to debunk the shack. The barn, yeah, I'm going to debunk the barn. Oh, yeah, I know, I didn't talk about the barn, Julie. I was mentioning the cabin. Anyway, I'm getting very rambly. It's very hard I should really work out how I can get one of the programs on here, the apps where I can have guests, StreamYard or something, and then I can sit and talk with someone. It's always better. I should get Kit to do a live. And I wanted to say, okay, and then people that they believe in this huge conspiracy, right? They believe in this huge conspiracy. Have you ever tried to do a project at work where you, you're all supposed to work together and get something done? It can be quite difficult, isn't it? Yeah, it's very difficult. This is not human nature. I mean, the level of cooperation, the logistics, the communication, the agreement, the collusion, it is not human nature, okay? A conspiracy of the size with which, it doesn't end with one thing, right? It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And, clearly the whole town, I mean, practically the whole state's involved, right? And every single person that's ever touched the case, So I just think that's ridiculous. And I think people are manipulated by creators. They get them all caught up with things. They get them very carried away. And yeah. So another thing that people were questioning, as if it's proof of anything, as if it's proof that the prosecutors are running a corrupt case against Rick Allen, even though no one has seen the discovery other than the prosecution and the defense, is that they say, they went back and interviewed Patrick Westfall. So yeah, why would they do that? Well, they're doing that because they're dotting their I's and crossing their T's. What they're doing is making sure that they can push out of the realm of possibility all of that gossip, all of those ideas. They were doing that. That's what so that maybe we can be infallible as far as that is concerned. We've done our due diligence. We've interviewed him. We are very sure that that he's not involved. What do you say, Johnny? I agree. It's just some YouTubers and people want us to believe that conspiracy stuff is real, but not in this case, I think. Well, this case is full of conspiracies, nuts, and I mean, you believe in plenty of conspiratorial things about this case, though, Johnny. You know? And, I mean, we believe in conspiracies. If you really knew what it took to have them carried out and actually work, you'd discard it very quickly if you really thought about what it actually takes, especially for more than 2 or 3 people to be involved. And even if there's 2 people involved and not one, the likelihood of getting caught for something goes up exponentially. So, you know, really, it is more likely that there is a lone person involved, right? You know, we've got image analysis and detection. Oh, my dog, hold on. He's all right, actually. You know, IAD, they're punching hard again with their Ron Logan. So what they're saying now is, I mean, number one, his body does not fit. And they just shrink Ron Logan down. And try. So see, it doesn't fit. You know, hey, I can see what they're kind of doing with the hat. So we're talking about BG, the video, the image of this person crossing the bridge. You know, it's such a, what's the word? You know, it's not an enigma, but you know, so now they say, no, it's Ron Logan because he had access, because he didn't even have to go on the trails. It's just adjacent to his land. So, okay, so Ron Logan just wandered down the back of his property, went through the little bit of wood, crossed the creeks. What, did he take his jeans off so that he's crossing in his gruts, you know, and then he put his jeans back on, because otherwise he's going to be wet and muddy, isn't he, when he gets out the other side? And then what, he's just sitting there waiting? Or what, old Ron Logan's really dialed into this catfishing thing, is he? And he knows Libby and Abby are coming, and he knows for a fact they're going to cross the bridge of their own accord, are they? Oh, okay. And so he just waits there, and then he doubles past them and pushes them back and down the hill. Do you think BG looks like he's got wet jeans clinging to his legs? No, he doesn't. Perry says, I don't know why RA's defence isn't pointing the finger at Kevin Kline and the Anthony Shots account. Well, I guess because that's been entirely, there's no evidence. I guess maybe they had a thread of evidence that they think they can push one juror over the edge with, you know. That should tell you everything, Perry. If they're going to such an extreme, right, the Odinists, when clearly, yeah, sure, why not Ron Logan? Why not Brett Holder? Why, you know, so, I mean, why not Keegan Kline, right? What does this tell you? What does this tell you? I do wish that we had some mod back here, but that's all right. Clean my windows, Perry. Oh, bot killer clean his windows. Yeah, so yeah, so okay. Yeah, I just think it's a shit show, and people that, you know, they The more we examine these theories, the more they seem possible, JK says, and it's very frustrating. But are they possible though, JK? So there's so much misinformation being spread around as fact, right? And it's so dense now. We've got 6 years of people meddling, creating names for themselves, not really thinking about any outcome, not thinking about any trial, just wanting to put out some information and video and get some subs. And and I'm talking about people like Anya and Kevin, who are just, I think they're repulsive. There's nothing journalistic about Anya. There's certainly nothing legal about Kevin. And think of the damage they've done. But these are just sly people. They're not, people hold them up as if they're some sort of authority, right? And they're not an authority. They're just they were very clever at some points, okay? How they were clever initially was that an unsealed document, a document that anybody could have put out, and in fact it was available, we just didn't think to get it and read it, right? Because I guess maybe 6 years ago we were a bit more naive about things than we were back then. True crime arena has changed quite a lot, and what Kevin and Anya did was take a document that wasn't sealed. This is Ron Logan's search warrant. So this was a search warrant written by Nicole Robinson of the FBI. I don't think the actual search itself was carried out by the FBI, but she's written up the document to go onto Ron Logan's property. And, and they've just published this with their watermark, the murder sheet across it. But it was really interesting to read. But sadly, maybe it should have been sealed because it did have information about the crime scene in it. It's so hilarious. People just judge everything. It's as if they have no discernment. They'll say, well, they weren't looking for a bullet at Ron Logan's. Why wasn't that specifically in the search warrant? Well, the search warrant... No, my name is Humanimal and it's not cringy. Why is it cringy to call me my name, Bendeo? So that's my actual name. Yeah. I chose it. So why aren't they looking for a bullet? I mean, things have to be held back, okay? Things have to be held back. And they know that the search warrant is not sealed. So people get hysterical over investigators trying to keep some things quiet and out of the public arena, just exactly as they should. I just think people are... To be human is obviously to be insane, right? It really is. I mean, we're all deranged because we're just too conscious, and we live in... We have too much white noise that we have to try and process, and we're not robots. And, our modem, our brain... even though it's capable of much more than we realize or know of yet, it didn't develop operating at these speeds with this just cacophony of information that we have to decide, Johnny, what do we discard just because something is a thanks, JK. Just because something is it's information, it's something that happened, it doesn't mean it's got anything to do with the case, right? It's how do we discern, or how do we work out what you have to needle out, what do you have to discard and pick out, and what's relevant. And bias can make you hold on to things that are irrelevant. seeds get planted and then people just can't let go of something, right? You know, they can't, they want to believe that there is this conspiracy. They can't just go with two girls went to trails and were brutally murdered. You know, they've got, they've been told a story, they've been drawn into something, and now it's got a life of its own in their own mind. And they're so attached to it, and it becomes their identity nearly. So, and it just can, you know, it just has to lead on to other things, right? So, you know, questioning the Snapchat photo and then connecting that to Mike Patty saying around 2:30, and, you know, as if people are robots, right? And putting so much weight onto things, not knowing how to balance things out and what needs weight and what doesn't. And they're tied up in knots. They're absolutely tied up in knots, and they're kind of trapped, right? But as I've said before, you know, it does not help. It doesn't help. It doesn't help when people, I mean, I'm not making judgment here because I'm not communicating very well here. Lives are very difficult. Lives are difficult when it's just you. It's easier if you've got someone sitting there or you're talking and there's a few people on the panel. I find that easier. I find it easier just making a video. This is difficult, okay? Because it's very difficult. Anyway, but I keep persevering. I don't know why. It is hard when all you need is that seed of bias, that seed of hate, okay? And then when someone like Kelsey German, for example, she's getting better, but she's a useless communicator. This is probably why she doesn't have a role offered to her as an advocate for victims. I don't know if it's an IQ issue or a maturity issue or a shyness issue. It could be all three. I don't know. Who knows? She could be acing it in uni. I don't know. But it's difficult, right? And it's difficult to understand her. And you have to know, you have to not just decide to run with everything. You need to weigh it up against other things, you know, about the case, see where the verbal mistakes are, you know, see where she's tripping over herself, you know, not just assume everything is a lie and enjoy that. But she doesn't make it easy, you know, people can see that. But does that mean that her entire family, see, now people are saying because for hundreds of years, they've been sacrificing people, right? And it's just, you know, I think they can't really decide whether they're Arthur or Martha because they seem to decide, you know, believe in every fucking single conspiracy out there. The thing is so huge that it's as if these people are just one entity, or they're communicating by, maybe they are just all controlled by a big, an entity, an alien, one demon, something like that. They're all controlled by it because they all work so well together in absolute unison. And they're fucking brilliant, right? Oh, you know, it's just nuts. We want our victims and their, you know, we want our victims' families to be eloquent, likable, attractive, relatable. We don't want them to, you know, have dark histories of their own. We want them to be perfect, right? People need to think, would I be perfect? What would it, you know, something happened to me and I was thrust in. What would people say about me, you know? And, you know, sadly, nearly, sadly, yeah, you've got a family where Becky Patty has raised felons. She's adopted another one, and they seem to take precedence over the time and the energy that was coming from her into their lives. Kelsey and Libby still kind of fending for themselves a little bit, so it seems, just being active in their own life and driving along very independently their own lives. I want to do sports, I'm doing this, great, whatever. But with no real parenting, and that's what they needed. And Becky Patty, though, feels absolutely grief-stricken and guilt-stricken over that, because she acknowledges she did not pay attention, that she didn't know what was going on with social media. Libby had been on social media, and in the way that's quite troublesome, since she was at least only 11 years old, maybe younger, but from 11. And I've looked into, I know exactly, how vulnerable these girls are. And they're on social media at 10 or 11, and they are not being supervised, and they are in contact with God knows whom, and they're inviting it too. And some girls' social medias on YouTube, on TikTok, which used to be called Musical.ly, they are inviting, that they are lost and they're lacking guidance and obviously attention, and where the fuck are their parents? And Libby, and probably Kelsey was one of these people. Now, why would Kelsey look at Anthony's shots and say, yeah, that looks like a perfectly normal friend for my sister. Nothing out of the ordinary there, because people will make this something sinister rather than something that is troublesome. It's troublesome, the stupidity or the naivety, or just the lack, maybe just getting, anyway, it's too complex to talk about. I know what I think about it. It's way too complex. It's too old and deep. There's so much water under the bridge, right? It's just like the entire Pacific Ocean has run under Monon High Bridge. Of course, there's so many angles. Everybody's life is going to have so many things that you can decide to question or not, accept or not, be understanding about or not. What am I saying? I don't know. It's just infuriating, though. So, if Ellen forgets new counsel, what do you reckon? Is this going to be a good thing, right? Wouldn't it be interesting? Okay, then, you might then, then you could probably have some belief in odonistic human sacrifice, although, how many cases of that have there been anywhere, right? They've just taken it to the next level now in Delphi. Oh, which is it? They've just taken it to the next level, because we certainly haven't had other cases of odonistic human sacrifice that we know of, or that they've been doing it for thousands of years, hundreds of years, generations. And it's the same people will say exactly the same opposing things. But wouldn't that be interesting? Now, that would be interesting. So maybe Rick Allen, is Baldwin and Rosie really the defense that somebody deserved? It's just hard to decide, isn't it? Humans are insane, because we're so conscious and we're so aware of our mortality and the way that we think about things. We're not accepting of, animals will fight for their own lives, but they're very accepting of their death, and we are not. you know, and if someone tries to tell you that they don't think about death in a negative way, they're lying. And yeah. Yes, so, you know, it is inexcusable, that it is unacceptable that the leaks have been going out. It doesn't matter who from and how. The fact that it happened in the fact that the salacious appetite for it, the fact that people think that it's okay and they're just and that they're cool, you know. The M on Snae's sweatshirt isn't for Mensa, right? I used to think in my mind, yeah, that's another 5-letter word starting with M, but I think it just stands for me, and that's that's not a real M on his sweatshirt. But people think it's okay, and they think they are warriors or something. Not really, probably. They're getting a hard on over it, and they don't realize that they are on the side of bad, of that they're not on the side of justice. It's just completely unacceptable. So Baldwin should be out. Now, how do we know that Rosie isn't the one that had something to do with the leaks? I mean, I think that when someone has been compromised, when something's so compromised, what do you do? What do you do, right? If someone's so compromised, do you just you do a half-assed job of stopping it? I mean, was there an inquiry? There has been a tragic suicide. Now, suicide is complex, so we don't know the level to which the leaks might be involved in someone taking their own life. Sometimes these are rash decisions. There was a case where an Australian radio company, radio DJs, 2 of them, rang up a hospital in the UK where I think Princess Kate was having one of her babies, and they rang up putting on a god-awful fake accent that sounded nothing like Queen Elizabeth II, who's now deceased. There's the Commonwealth now has King Charles, but put on this fake accent. Oh, hello, something just stupid like that. Oh, hello. Yes, could you pop with her to the maternity ward? I want to speak to my lovely, I want to hear all about my new grandbaby. It was so ridiculous. And this receptionist has put them through to the private maternity ward, and then has, a lot of people need to step the fuck back. They actually need to back, they need to actually leave the room, leave that YouTube arena, because they have done damage. They've done so much damage. They're not just reporting, they're not investigative. They are ghouls, they are cruel, they are insane. There are people that are unhinged. They've started a whole lot of shit in Delphi, and off they've gone into Idaho 4 now, and they're doing exactly the same thing because it's just their MO. People need to get with the program. But anywho, it's not that things sometimes aren't quite mysterious and that mystery isn't real. But anyway. And at the maternity ward, someone did put a phone call through to the room or something. Well, that poor person working, she's just a nurse working in a hospital. She committed suicide. That was that sort of huge emotion, no time to calm down, just a major mental health crisis. An absolute attack, and she killed herself. Now, she may have had other things going on already so that she couldn't cope, she didn't know where to get help, but she just basically died of shame, and I don't know if that's the case with this poor person that has committed suicide, who has some connection to the leaks. I don't know if they were the person that was dripping things out, or if they're the ones that didn't aren't responsible for some leaks but for a main leak. I don't know. But I don't think Rosie, he's part of it, okay? He's part of it. He's part of the attorneys group who were tasked with defending Richard Allen, and he's part of the shit show. He's part of this 136-page Frank motion that says that the Odin's done it. He's part of a firm who have, over a period of time, dripped out information, and he should be out. He should be out as well. He should not be carrying on. What's he going to do? Carry on with the same palaver? Is he trying to stop being exposed? Is he trying to stop Baldwin and everything that's gone on as being exposed? Blind Squirrel says, Rosie and Dean Attorney and Radiator Repair, best place in Delphi to take a leak. Yes. So is that why he's trying to stay on? He doesn't want another defense firm looking at their work, getting that discovery, and when the new defense firm don't say again, oh, the Odin's done it, completely exposed for the bullshit artists that they are. Everyone's holding them up in high regard, but they are responsible for a lot of crap. And I think Gull, I don't know about her. A lot of people liked her at first. Oh, suddenly when she doesn't please them, they hate her because it doesn't fit their cruel bias, doesn't fit into their little hate pocket. Now they don't like her, right? Oh, they loved her at first. Now they hate her. Why? Because she's cracking down, because she wants to just slow it down. I mean, that is tough on Ellen, okay? It's not great for anybody, innocent or guilty, sitting there before trial. Let's not forget, Richard Allen could have had a trial within 70 days. He didn't take that option. Richard Allen also had the option for a March 2023. He didn't take that option. And then in April, he's apparently confessed. I don't think anyone really should talk about that with great significance until we know exactly what's what. The defense team aren't denying it. So have they come up with this whole Odin done it theory because he confessed? And now they're being booted off, and quite rightly, but Rosie's trying to salvage it for dear life, going to the Supreme Court. Maybe the Supreme Court does need to step in, but it's not because of Judge Gull. Maybe it's because the Supreme Court need to step in and say, you can't, sorry, but by association, you can't be on this case. Anybody who's had anything to do with this case now is under suspicion. And I think, you can't pardon Rosie and say, well, he's nothing to do with it. We don't know. Hey, isn't it funny? Isn't it funny how, people can have such a huge conspiracy in this case, against, it's just like dominoes, right? Oh, if it's McLennan, McClelland, that leads to the family, and if it's this, it leads to that. And you know, and they're saying Shane Evans was sleeping with Kelsey and probably Libby, right? And everything leads back to everywhere. It's all related. And but Baldwin, and you know, these people are just isolated. And Rosie, no, just trust him. But if everyone's related to everything, so I mean, just, you know, the stupidity and the hatefulness, and people get sucked in by people like Julie Melvin, because she'll, you know, don't forget, she took her channel down for a while. She made some good videos driving, showing people the place, right? And she speaks well, and she's informed, but she's also talks a lot of fucking crap, okay? And she hides a lot of stuff, and she's very sly. And, you know, don't forget that after she was exposed as little Joe Lewis, little tiny weeny Joe Lewis, he calls that himself that, right? Little Joe Lewis, his informant, she took her channel down for a while, and then, you know, she let the dust settle, and then she came back. She posted up those videos again, and now she's just back, and she's very sly, and the way she introduces things and the way she'll talk things. If you knew what she really believed, yeah. So if you're wondering who she is, yeah, she is the sister of the biological mother of Cody Patty. Yeah, but I believe that she doesn't have any sort of relationship with him. I don't think she really has ever. I don't know. But, you know, people have lives and no one's perfect. But, you know, I think it is... See, in the Gannon Stout case, right, even though Landon, she lost custody of her children, and then by agreement was having her ex-husband, Al Stout, look after Gannon and Lena, her older children who she had with Al. She was having trouble with drug use and everything, and now she's in a new relationship. She got 2 new children, and she's been raising them while Gannon and Lena were with Letitia Stout, who murdered Gannon, and with Al, along with Harley Hardin, who is Letitia Stout's daughter from a prior relationship, with a man named Chase, who was actually, I think he died of a drug overdose, but she told him it was an armed robbery or something like that. Told Harley it was an armed robbery. Anyway, what the fuck was I saying? I was saying about the family, Julie Melvin being the mother, the sister of the mother of Cody. You know, we want our victims' families, we want to really like them. And, you know, Landon, even though she had those issues and everything, she spoke so passionately and so well, and she advocated for Gannon so well, that people just love her, right? And it's not because she's perfect, but she's very likable, and she's very likable, and when she spoke, she was clear. It's not like she has perfect grammar or anything like that, but she just captured people and drew them in, and the majority of people just adored her, supported her. I mean, Zav Girl refused to do what, you know, she asked very simply, which was just apologize to my son. Let's not go down that route. But anyway, but you know, it is harder to like certain people. You know, we talk about, you know, Mike Patty being twitchy. And yeah, I don't know why people say Becky Patty shows no emotion. She's often very emotional, I think. But yeah. To me, they're not very likable, but I'm not going to get on them for that. I don't think it means that they are involved as in mafioso activities in Indiana, and I don't think that it means that they're just going to pick someone to blame for the deaths and that they're actually responsible. I mean, do I think they were very good at parenting these children? No. But not everyone's perfect. People don't, it's hard for us maybe to hold these things on one hand, you know, to find someone unlikable, to be quite judgmental about them. We're not living their lives. And, you know, and then on the other, to not take that and turn it into, okay, because of this, guilty as sin, don't need my support, don't need justice because the justice needs to rain down on them. It's quite twisted. And there are some very clever people and Machiavellian people who love to just rile people up and set the dogs loose. Yeah, set these people on individuals, right? Anyway, I've just rambled on here. I don't even know what I wanted to say about Delphi, really. Just that I find it interesting. Just really about, just about Judge Gull and how quick people are now to dislike her because of their dislike for the family, and they see, you know, Doug Carter and everyone looks too happy. They can't find a place to think, yeah, because they're thinking part of the circus is closing down. This is a 3-ring circus. Baldwin and Rosie have been so responsible for they're basically, you know, they could be seen as thwarting justice, right? Because obviously the Paddies and the Germans, they don't believe, you know, if people are so guilty, if people that think that they're so guilty, why do they not believe then that they would just go along with whatever crap that, you know, whomever could come up with whatever, as long as they're not found guilty? You'd think they'd support whatever crap that led away from them, right? Oh, hold on, wait a minute now, they Odinists? I mean, the fact is Odinists exist, and they exist in Indiana. They operate there, so do Nordic pagan heathens, so do a lot of groups, okay? There are supply shops around there for things to be used in rituals. Human sacrifice will be just as repulsive to Odinists as it might be to other human beings. Yeah, so I just find it so frustrating that you can so clearly see the bias in the way that people think about things, and so quickly too, in the way that they're so willing to immediately convert something they see into hate and some, you know, whatever sells their belief system, whatever. I just can't talk today. I'm sorry, I'm so tired. I've got a lot on my mind. You know, but yeah, because they hate the Paddies, because Julie Melvin is hated by them, and they think that she is dog shit on their shoes. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. See, I know nothing. I don't know what the truth is, but because, yeah, she has her own views. People reveal themselves all the time. She reveals herself immediately rather than having any sort of discussion about, oh gosh, you know, Paddy's and Carter seem pretty happy that the judges shut this down. I wonder why that is. Could it be this, or is it this? There's no discussion. There's no pondering that, okay, well, maybe the victim's family and Doug Carter, no matter what you think of him, maybe they are the good guys. So maybe that's a clue as to how we might like to feel about this. Maybe this is a shit show, and if they're happy, it's because a shit show is being, one ring's being closed down. Now we just got to work on the other, right? Do you think, how do you think people felt about those leaks? I mean, I'm feeling really bad now. I mean, because I drew out as an exercise, okay, let's draw out what the defense are telling us. We know that they've embellished because we know how different what they were describing in frank motion as to the scene. We know that it didn't look like that at all. It looked more random, or it didn't look, it didn't look like the girls had separate designs of sticks on them. They actually look quite similar. And personally, I think that the bodies were being covered up. I think they were just having structures put around them and they were just being covered up. And I think there were going to be leaves and things thrown over, and I think there possibly were a lot of leaves on there. Remember, Libby was half covered, and it's very likely, because we know how long someone had to be at the scene, it's very likely that they were just disturbed and off they went before they could cover. But there might have been enough coverage that people looking near the area or through the area might not have seen. Remember, this is nighttime. They were found in the daytime, still covered by branches and leaves, but maybe not as much. And in the pitch black of night, even with, some people were just using their phones, and it's the lies that go out there. There was hundreds of people out there. They talk as if there were 100 people walking arm in arm, going right over the scene. No, hundreds of people turned up for the search in town, in Delphi. Some of them went up the towpaths, way on the other side of town, the other end of the trails. Some of them went down the Wabash Area Canal trails. The trails extend way down there. Some people looking through town, people looking on Riley Park, people looking along the riverbanks, looking through the streets, ringing up friends. A few people out at the bridge, a few people. One tiny little search party on one side of the river, one of which is Kelsey's teacher. What are you saying? You say, oh, no, that's right. Kelsey's a teacher. That's right. A teacher is also they're part of the conspiracy too. That's right. So a small party and a very small search party on the other side. Okay? Not hundreds of people right there at that place, at those ends of the bridge, north or south. No, they were just everywhere. They met in town and they got told where to go. Teenage girls missing. Yes, you want to really check the bridge, but did they scarf off? Where did they go? Skive off, I mean, where did they go? They could have gone, hey, let's go into town. Were they lying? Had they been assaulted and killed and put into bins behind the McDonald's, behind the CVS? Did they decide to walk off? Were they abducted from 300? Did they go back to wait for Derek German and just get picked up in a car? Did they just go off to Riley Park again? Did they want to meet friends? Did they meet some other girl? Who knows, right? Did they think, oh, let's go down there and see if some boys are at the Oval? Whatever, right? It's not realistic to assume only that two these aren't 8 and 9-year-old girls, the teenage girls. People also pick on like, oh, so why didn't you look under the bridge if you thought they could have fallen off? Well, when they're crossing, they're looking. And this is during the day that she thought, it's just the garbage. And people are they say it with such force and opinion that you get all these little repeaters, right? So, so now we're supposed to interpret this whole latest trial shenanigans. Sure, look, I mean, as completely negative for Richard Allen. I mean, and geared towards the families being happy, and if they're happy, there must be it's some conspiracy, right? They're really, they're telling people what to do. They're really guiding it, and it's so evil. It just makes so zero sense. And why couldn't it be that just like many people, maybe not the loudest people, but many people, just like many people, they thought, okay, because people will say, yeah, but it was Becky Patty that brought to the attention of law enforcement, Brad Holder and everything. Well, duh, because if your granddaughter is murdered, you don't just sit around twiddling your thumbs. If you're online having a look, Becky Patty is too. Other people are as well. And they are throwing anything and everything at law enforcement to investigate. Hey, what about this? Did you do this? They are desperate. It's just so repulsive that people, so now, oh, but Becky Patty pushed them towards that, and now she's going the other way. Maybe when the police investigated, they said, yeah, look, we've investigated, we really don't think there's anything here. And then maybe they've made sure before they've gone to arrest Richard Allen, because they've re-interviewed Patrick Westfall in August, didn't they, right? So maybe they just wanted to make really sure. And then maybe again, they've said to Becky Patty and Mike Patty, yeah, look, we want to assure you, we have brought them in, we've questioned. We feel confident with how we're going to proceed now. We just wanted to be able to lock that away. But, the defense haven't. The defense have decided to use it. And now Rossi wants to stay on so he can keep using it. We've got to think, well, does he believe in Richard Allen's innocence, or does he just not want to be exposed for the shenanigans? Because a new defense team are not going to run with the Odin theory, right? Yeah, I wish I knew more about the FBI and how they operate with jurisdictions and things, because once the FBI are involved in something, Johnny, it's not like they just drop it or forget about it. They stay with it. So I don't know why I don't know why. Hello, Harper5243. I don't know why they've I don't know why they didn't go and do the search themselves at Ron Logan's, for example. Some people are convinced that the FBI are convinced that Ron Logan is involved. I think we'd be stupid to say Ron Logan isn't involved. I mean, okay, anybody could have been at that scene afterward. Should we say that it's Ron Logan on the bridge? I don't believe so. I mean, as I said before, we've got groups or whatever like IAD putting out, they just vomit the same videos about Ron Logan being bridge guy. Who knows, right? And the prosecution aren't even trying to say what happened at the scene. Maybe that it will be revealed, but they're not trying to say it. They're just trying to prove felony murder. They're trying to prove that Richard Allen is the person that abducted Libby and Abby off the bridge. And then you've got all the people that believe they weren't even on the bridge, not that day, and that it was Kelsey that made that video, and she uploaded a fake Snapchat, and even though Snapchat doesn't work like that, and let's put the timeline out, yeah, I do wish that we did have victims' families that were a little, that didn't just give so much consternation. I mean, yeah, because they do. And I wish that we didn't have an investigative team that have people in it that are corrupt and can't do basic police work. And because it unsettles us, because we quite rightly question everything. Not sure what that means, Yoli. Agent Allison from the FBI is watching the detectives because every day they write the book. Who's Agent Allison? Perry says Ron Logan's property and electronics were checked very early on and nothing was found implicating him. Yeah. And this big pig roast that people had, right? Apparently, this big ritual feast to celebrate the sacrifices held at Ron Logan's land. They didn't find a skerrick to do with that, did they, as well, Perry? Yeah. There are many curious things, okay? It is curious, to get from the creek up to the scene. That is steep, okay? And it is curious. Where is Abby's blood? I mean, she can bleed into herself. That is actually a fact, depending on how you cut and how you're positioned. You're not necessarily losing blood everywhere. You're internally hemorrhaging. You die and there's not going to be blood around. She could have been killed in Deer Creek. And if you think Richard Allen couldn't manage to get, the dead weight of a under 50 kg girl up the hill, maybe he did have help. Maybe he forced Libby. Maybe he forced Libby to help get Abby up, telling her, oh no, I feel bad now. Let's get her up here. We'll get her out of the water and we'll call for help, I promise. Who knows, right? I think it's probably Libby's handprint on the tree. We just don't know what's happened, and it's torture. We think it's torture for us, what it is for the family, and yet people accuse them of being involved or of whatever. Yeah, and I mean, and because we've got the invisible man for Libby's father, Derek German, never spoken publicly. That creeps people out, right? Well, maybe we really don't need to hear from him. We don't want to. The guy should never have been living under the Patty roof. Didn't have custody of his girls. He failed in raising them. That's why he lost custody. He lost custody because of neglect, drugs, right? Tiny, vulnerable girls with Libby as a toddler, Kelsey not much older, Kelsey understanding and seeing what's going on. She's that much older. She's conscious of it. And Carrie and Derek, yes, carrying on like that. So empathy for them now, yes, right? But does that give them rights as parents when they decided to discard those rights through their felonious actions, their drug abuse, their neglect of their children? Does that mean that now, rather than the caretakers that were raising them under their roof, does that mean that they should be, I feel for Carrie not being told much about the case, but she's kind of waived that right as parent, right? Because it's so complicated. The information does need to go to the people that had legal guardianship. It's really complicated. It's like with in the Laurie Vallow and Chad Daybell cases where many people died, including Laurie Vallow's adopted son JJ and biological daughter Tylee Ryan's father being, dying and now considered probably one of Laurie's or one of her victims. JJ was the adopted son of Laurie and Charles Vallow. Charles is the brother of Kay, who is the mother, the biological mother of the biological father of JJ. And they performed their role of, they were loving grandparents. When Laurie went AWOL at one time, they were going down to Houston. They were helping with JJ, traveling so much. They were helping Charles out. And then subsequently, after JJ has been murdered, and Laurie's currently being found guilty of that murder, and Chad Daybell still to come, to trial for that. But what's happened is, because JJ was legally adopted by Charles and by Laurie, it's taken that legal guardianship out of Kay Woodcock's hands, basically. So even though she's his biological grandmother, she's also his auntie, but she's also not his legal guardian, and legal guardianship goes to Colby, Tylee's brother, Laurie's oldest son, and Charles's sons, Zach and Cole. And, Carrie and Larry Woodcock, who, helped raise JJ and who have been going to all the court appearances. You probably know of them if you know the case. People are saying, oh, it must be lovely now that JJ's been released from the court. He's finally, after all these years, can be released to you and you're able to have his remains and bury it. No, they don't get him. They will have to come to some arrangement with Colby, of all people. And that's, it's kind of the situation with Libby and Carrie and Derek, where, Carrie was trying to have some relationship with Libby, even though they could have been communicating daily. It doesn't mean that could just be that Libby was doing that, but didn't really, we don't know how she felt. And we know Kelsey feels quite negative towards Carrie. And is it right that Carrie is, it's a legal thing. It's a legal thing where she's not legally entitled, as cruel and as unusual and awful as it is. She's not legally entitled to be part of that conduit directly, say, from Toby Leesenby or Doug Carter with information, anything about the scene, anything about the investigation in the way that the legal guardians are. And that's just a sad fact of life. And then, you've got legal guardians who, okay, so they've taken over because Becky Patty's biological son has lost custody. He's a felon, he's a drug user, there's neglect. Who knows, was there domestic violence between Carrie and Derek that these little children, Kelsey and Libby, experienced? That's domestic violence. That makes them victims of abuse. And so not only are they being neglected, so people wonder, why is Tobe he's so nasty about Carrie? It's clear that he doesn't really respect it. Well, you know what? He probably, in his time as sheriff and that CCSO, probably has been called out to countless domestics. He's probably pulled her over while she's off her tits driving. Who knows? He's probably gone around there to see that the children are, not being cared for. He's locked her up for methamphetamine use, knowing that she's got these two little children. You think he's respecting her? Right? For whatever reasons, people were making other choices other than to parent their children. Most of us manage this. And, come hook or crook, it's not easy. Carrie had come from a larger, busier town. And she moves to Delphi and there was nothing there for her. And this is sadly how things go sometimes in towns. And there's, not a lot going on for people. She's a young person and she's got 2 children. Bad things happened. I don't know what happened. Did Derek German get her into drug use? Did she get herself into it? Alcoholism? What? It wasn't good. We know that. And guess what? The law enforcement officers of the county at the time have had first-hand interactions with Carrie for years. And they're probably, no one's perfect, and she's had struggles, and now she's trying to make a life 280 miles away. She's got other children in the same way that Landon has other children living way down in Florida, I think. But, it's complicated, and people, don't, she's suffering. It's enough just to accept that someone is suffering, their child is dead, brutally murdered, they are being, you can feel empathy, but it doesn't mean that you should say, this should be turned around. It might not. Offer support and try and help her now with what she's going through. She's dealing with it in her own way, in the way that sometimes really grief-stricken people do, and that is getting caught up with people that are, mediums and things like that, right? And anywho, so, it's complicated. It's not as simple as, wow, that is so unfair. She is the biological mother. It's more complicated than that, and it doesn't mean that you can't feel love and empathy for her and that you can't show support. By all means, in fact, do. Please do. If you're in any position to do so, if you're anywhere near, people shouldn't be shoved aside and forgotten, but it's legal. It's legal for her not to be that connection. And that's just the way it is. And even if she really regrets that now and she's clean and she's never gonna, she had a lot of repair to do. She may never have been able to have a really good relationship with Libby and until maybe much later, and Libby was able as an adult to heal or to find some, level ground with Carrie. We don't know. All these assumptions, yeah. But at the same time, just because I feel like this, okay, I don't think Derek German should have been under that domestic roof. He's lost custody. So you can't tell me that at times a person that has lost custody of their child through, for some heinous things, right? This isn't just through, okay, I got a divorce, someone applied for, and the judge just went with mom. That's not the case. Both parents lost. There's a reason for it. And now he's been living in the house with a minor child of his that he doesn't have custody for. You're going to tell me that he was never alone in charge? And here he is driving her around. I mean, what sort of agreement? Is it supposed to be supervised? Didn't even have a license either. But he could pick them up, drop them off. I can guarantee you plenty of times Mike's not there, Becky's not there, young Libby's home. Now, okay, you could say by 12, 13, 14, it is acceptable for a person of that age to be left at home for short periods of time. Different countries and different areas have different ideas about this, okay? In New Zealand, for example, it could be acceptable, depending on the child, to leave a 14-year-old child at home for short periods of time, maybe with younger siblings. You might say allow a child of 12, depending on the situation, to be latchkey child simply after work for the period of 1 or 2 hours. So, okay, does it matter if he's there or not? But the fact is that this was a person that isn't very reliable, and he's there in the home, and he's got anyway, I don't know. And he was already, by the time of her murder, he was already making arrangements to fuck off out of there anyway. And now he's living in upstate New York. I think he left very soon after the murders, and maybe even in February 2017, I'm not sure. So if you're wondering why you never see him, it's because he's not even in Indiana. He's not there, and who knows what he's doing. Hopefully, yeah, developing a good life, and maybe working somehow, behind the scenes with Becky and Patty, and they'll be in contact. But he certainly has no right to anything directly from law enforcement either. And that's really bizarre. I understand it seems bizarre because he's a biological parent. And then you've got Cody Patty, fresh out of jail, coming to stay there. I don't think I don't care if he's an adopted child. This is not a blood, this isn't a blood sibling to Libby and Kelsey. And we know that is a danger sign. It just puts that meter up on what endangers a child, and that is to be around older people like that aren't related, so who knows. Look, apparently they all love each other and everything, but there is gossip that Kelsey didn't want him there at the home. Who knows? But there's so many distractions, right? Tara wasn't someone that was very independent by all means either. Derek's troubled. Tara's troubled. And then you got Cody Patty coming out of jail, fresh out of jail, in time for Libby's murder. And it just seems to me like, where were the girls in priority? Was it just thought of as because they had to be so independent and they seemed okay? Oh, there's plenty of people doing spirit box stuff on the case. Yeah, those people are fucked in the head. Yeah, they're so special. They're so special. Libby wants to talk to Joan from... So, yeah, I mean, the household just seemed chaotic. So the girls basically seemed like they were living quite independent lives, just involving themselves in classes and sport, and so had people switched off from what they really needed, and still at that just such a delicate age that they still need a lot of parenting, right? And Libby was taking classes at Purdue, just making these, really conscious decisions about her future, and, must have seemed quite independent and everything. And children can seem like that, but they can be just so lost, and so they don't know what to do, but it looks like they do. Yeah. Anyway, I might toddle off. Yeah, there's just so much, isn't there? The case is that, Richard Allen is charged with felony murder. Whether that's right or wrong makes it a moot point that nothing of his was found at the scene. They're not trying to prove that he was at the scene, and we don't have discovery, so we don't know. Defense would hide that, and prosecution